Ice cream is beloved around the world, and compared to other perishables, it's an ever-evolving product for infinite flavor possibilities and form factors. Ice cream in the US is a multi-billion-dollar market dominated by legacy players like Ben & Jerry's, Haagen-Dazs, Bluebell, and Breyers. Yet consumers have demonstrated a curiosity beyond the brands they grew up on, and switching costs remain low as it takes seconds to grab something different from the freezer aisle. The industry has expanded from value-oriented family-sized tubs from a few select household names in the 90s into an ever-growing landscape of small pints from a wide variety of newcomers. From the outside, it's a win-win. Customers get luxury of choice, every brand must innovate to maintain market share, and there's something for everyone at every price point. From the manufacturer's perspective, ice cream on paper should be a worthwhile business. It's a product with decades of proven unit economics, sales channels, distribution points, and business plans. Compared to other perishables, ice cream is frozen, requires few inputs, and can be reliably scaled into massive quantities. And it's never a question of if someone will eat ice cream, but when. The global appeal of the product has made the industry a target for private equity, who have supercharged emerging mom-and-pop scoop shops into premium brands with massive capital infusions. They've invested into companies like Van Leeuwen and Jeni's, all under the bet that they can one day become the Haagen-Dazs for the next generation. Yet for a product that's so well understood and universally loved, ice cream is a strange business. It's so low margin that the owners of Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry's not only engage in shrinkflation to squeeze out profit, but have been actively offloading their ice cream ventures to anyone who will take them. These conglomerates also own other iconic brands, from Klondike and Talenti to Good Humor, Magnum, and Drumstick. They're consumer conglomerates who have operated these assets together with unrivaled synergies for as long as 60 years. Despite having the leading brands, the best IP, and economies of scale for decades, Nestle, Unilever, and Kroger have each concluded that the ice cream business is just not worth it. Retail concepts that once dominated in the 2000s, like Baskin, Robbins, and Cold Stone, have also experienced similar stagnation. In this episode, we're diving into the curious business of ice cream from the macro to micro, starting from the big brands all the way to 3 independents in New York City who have uniquely found success in this oddly difficult industry. This episode is sponsored by NetSuite by Oracle, the leading cloud financial system powering companies all around the world. What does the future hold in business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. Hire 3 consultants and you'll get 4 different reports. Read 5 newspapers and you'll get 6 different interpretations. In 1 week, the media will report that rates are rising, and in the next, that rates are falling. Analysts will tell you that we're in a bull market this quarter and then in a bear market the next. Could someone please invent a crystal ball? Until then, over 40,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. Modern MBA is small at the moment, but as soon as we grow and scale within the US and into other countries, we will need and use NetSuite. Today we're stitching things manually with our bookkeeper, accountant, and a constant flood of emails in our inbox. It's progressively harder to assess business health, especially as we've expanded to multiple workflows and production pipelines. We'll need the ability to track production costs, to run payroll that's compliant with states and countries, to manage our physical inventory of equipment across borders, to evaluate profit and loss by team and project rather than just at the company level, and to maintain a proper list of accounts receivable rather than email invoices and calendar reminders. As a corporation, we have to pay tax throughout the year, and it's a nightmare jumping from system to system just to get one clean answer. These are all capabilities that only NetSuite provides, and it's a platform and opportunity that we will take every advantage of for the future. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/modernmba. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/modernmba. netsuite.com/modernmba. The surging popularity of ice cream through the 90s attracted the attention of the British conglomerate Unilever. Back then, Unilever was the market leader in mayonnaise, pasta sauce, margarine, deodorant, and soap. Ice cream, by all signals, was a slam dunk as the next big essential CPG category. By 2001, Unilever had scaled to become the world's biggest ice cream company with acquisitions of Popsicle, Breyer, Klondike, Ben & Jerry's, Good Humor, and Cornetto, on top of homegrown inventions like Magnum. Even Ben & Jerry's, despite the surging popularity in the 90s, struggled to generate profits as an independent and at scale. The vision was to bring all these ice cream brands together to share assets and to unify a single supply chain to achieve better margins. But since the Great Recession, the ice cream division has become Unilever's weakest link, and it's not for a lack of effort. Unilever has tried pushing Magnum to the top of market, buying Talenti, innovating flavors and pints for Ben & Jerry, offering non-dairy variants, and launching smaller volume derivatives, all in the pursuit of better margins. Now for the first time ever, they're reporting the ice cream division by itself to show investors why they're so committed to divesting this business. From 2001 to 2008, the company reported the ice cream business alongside the tea brand Lipton, which combined grossed roughly 7.6 billion euros every year. Fast forward to present day, the ice cream division grossed 7.9 billion euros in 2023. That's a total growth of 4% across 20 years. On the bright side, the bottom line has improved to low double digits, but still lags behind the other divisions. Management has consistently blamed the weather, weak summers, and increases in sugar, dairy, and cocoa costs, but the sample size is too great. Unilever has committed to sell off its entire ice cream business by 2025 and is struggling to find buyers. The Swiss conglomerate Nestle had an identical epiphany to Unilever. Nestle was already selling bottled water, milk, candy, coffee, frozen pizza, and pet food in bulk to retailers around the world. Adding ice cream to the catalog was a no-brainer. By 2004, Nestle had made itself into the second biggest player in ice cream by acquiring Haagen-Dazs, Dreyers, Drumstick, and creating new brands like Dibs. Like Unilever, they cut costs, shared manufacturing infrastructure, merged distribution, launched new flavors, and released innovations across all brands. The ice cream division peaked in 2007 with gross sales of $8.7 billion combined, but since then has been on a decline year after year. Profit margins only grew after 2009 when they started charging customers the same price for less product, after reducing the volume of every Haagen-Dazs pint from 16 ounces to 14 ounces. In 2019, Nestle cashed out and sold off the ice cream division to a Parisian private equity firm at a 20% premium for $4 billion. Like Unilever, Nestle cited their desire to focus on high-growth verticals and didn't find owning the second best-selling ice cream brand to be worth it. The pitch was that these assets would do better in the hands of Creamery, a joint venture dedicated exclusively to the ice cream business. To their credit, Creamery has been able to deliver on this promise as revenue has grown despite no real change in volume. But operating margin remains low at 10%, and management is once again banking on cost-cutting to improve the bottom line. Creamery is actually losing as much money as it's bringing in, as the company has borrowed so much capital to finance these acquisitions. All of the operating income is consistently eaten up by the interest. The private equity firm is looking for ways out of Creamery, whether that's raising more funds to bring the company to IPO or to sell their 50% stake to someone else. The American supermarket giant Kroger had an identical epiphany to Nestle and Unilever. Despite owning the 7th best-selling ice cream brand for 4 decades with an annual gross revenue of $500 million, Kroger unloaded Turkey Hill in 2019 at a 50% discount to private equity. When the world's largest consumer conglomerates with the biggest brands are all exiting the ice cream market over stagnation and poor margins, it doesn't project much upside for the upstarts. When we look beyond store-bought ice cream, we see similar regression in retail scoop shops. Cold Stone was all the rage in the 2000s and under franchising had scaled from 200 locations into over 1,000 in 7 years. Yet since 2011, the number of shops have dwindled down year after year to a little over 800. Given that the upfront cost to open is $584,000 and the median Cold Stone grosses $531,000 after royalties, it's clear why no one's rushing to open a Cold Stone. The owner of Baskin Robbins also owns Dunkin' Donuts, and the only way they've been able to maintain retail presence is to bundle the scoop shop next to the donut chain. Even then, Baskin Robbins has fewer shops in the country today than it did a decade ago. System-wide sales, which is the sale of all ice cream products, wholesale or by the scoop, across all locations, franchise or corporate, has grown just 8% in 12 years. While Baskin-Robbins' bright spot is its international business, where they've added over 2,000 locations over the past decade, even those earnings have constraints. The average sales per store overseas has grown only 14% over 12 years, which is less than 2% year over year. Outside of franchising, there's just not much in this business. The limits of ice cream, whether by the scoop or by the pint, makes it even stranger why private equity has invested so much into new brands like Jeni's, Salt & Straw, and Van Leeuwen. These companies have collectively burned millions of dollars year after year, scaling production, advertising, opening shops, and blanketing retailers with as many pints possible. But given how thin the margins are and how stagnant the earnings are for the market leaders, it's difficult to imagine how these new startups can ever make it in the black. Profitability seems even less likely as these new brands are all single product businesses that lack the synergies, infrastructure, cross-sell, and economies of scale that Unilever, Nestle, and Kroger all relied on to achieve double-digit operating margins. On the corner of the Lower East Side in New York City is Sam's Fried Ice Cream. This neighborhood comes alive when the sun goes down, and young crowds flood bars and clubs for a night out. Sam has positioned himself to serve those looking to indulge their sweet tooth. For all the shortcomings of the ice cream business from a manufacturing standpoint, the upside is that the product sells itself. Sam has been featured on Insider and Delish, but that virality has never translated to actual customers. The appeal of ice cream, the novelty of frying it, and the never-ending tipsy crowds right outside his door has been enough to sustain his business for the past 7 years.
Back in 2009 for 2011, we were selling the t-shirt in Manhattan, Lower East Side, and it's very competitive, so it's hard to make a living out of it. So then we start to think of some kind of food we can sell that's unique and no one else sell it. And back then my brother and his friend was working in a Chinese restaurant and saw they have dessert called fried ice cream. And then we do walk around different street fairs and see if there's available anywhere, and there's none. So we just sit together and just go online, look, try to perfect the ingredient, have it with the way we want to make it. And then we try to test it out in the street fair in 2011 in Manhattan. And then it works out great. After the first 2 years, we start expanding from 1 booth to 2 booths to 3 booths. And pretty much from then on to 2017, we start our own shop here in Lower East Side, Manhattan.
Sam's a self-admitted opportunist and a man of few words. There's nothing complicated about this business. His shop is tiny, and at 200 square feet, there's no chance he'll ever have the space to make his own ice cream. He buys his ice cream in bulk from Hershey's and adds value by scooping them into balls and frying to order. His customers don't care what brand of ice cream they're eating underneath the crust, especially when they're sold at $8 a portion or $9.50 with topping.
There's a lot of ice cream places I know is been going to close and open really quick because it's nothing really special. I mean, for us, we do fried ice cream, and so far we're still the only one selling fried ice cream, specialty specialized only in fried ice cream out here in New York City. It's still different, different than anybody else. Roll ice cream is everywhere, but it's just ice cream. But I have a lot of customers asking what is fried ice cream, and they still don't know about it. So pretty much we use the ice cream with different batter, roll up whatever crust you want, and then we just deep fry. So outside it's a crispy funnel cake, inside is a frozen cold ice cream. The temperature is really important, of course. So we tried at home ourselves, but it's so easy to burn. So you don't want to get a fire in the house. So it's easier just to buy it than make it your own. Summertime definitely is hot, so people might not want fried ice cream because it's too hot, even though it's hot and cold. And of course, they want something cold to drink, so either drink milkshake. Now we got slush, so they probably want it too. Just a different option for them to choose from.
Sam does his best business in the summer, grossing $15,000 a month between June to August, but business dips as low as $4,000 a month during the other 3 seasons. His shop on average grosses $81,000 a year, and he pays $3,000 a month or $36,000 a year in rent. The business is so simple that Sam doesn't know his margins, just that he makes more than he spends. Ultimately, the shop is just a supplement. The majority of revenue comes from street fairs, where they gross on average $120,000 a year. These fairs draw up to 50,000 people, and Sam can bang out 10 orders a minute over the course of a single night. He and his brother travel every summer to over 100 fairs across the Northeast, where they can gross $2,000 in a single night compared to the shop, which can only pull in $500 on a good day. Combined, Sam's Fried Ice Cream grosses a little over $200,000 a year for a venture that sells itself and where the greatest input is time. Just a block away is Manhattan's latest independent scoop shop, Smooth. Christy is one of the owners. She studied finance, has an MBA, and works a day job at a hedge fund on Wall Street. Her ambition is greater than just serving a single neighborhood, as she scaled Smooth to a second location in California in just 3 years. By winning customers one scoop at a time, Christy's goal is to build a brand that can eventually break into the high-volume wholesale.
Our ice cream is focused on Asian-inspired flavors, so our most popular flavor is wu-bei, and we also have other American flavors like Fruity Pebble, birthday cake, and I think we specialize in the tea flavors. We have peach oolong, matcha, Thai tea, and jasmine tea is also very popular. Our target audience are mostly focused on teenagers to young professional, age around 15 to 35.
Getting into wholesale requires proof that your brand is proven, as supermarkets demand assurance that if they buy your ice cream, they'll be able to sell it for more. Because unorthodox flavors these days are more the norm rather than the exception, Smooth, in Christie's mind, must sell a broad product mix to survive. At Smooth, ice cream here is sold in a cup, on croissant waffles, in bubble tea, or blended into milkshakes.
I think for ice cream, the advantage will be, of course, in a hot day, summertime, the business is really good, that people want ice cream. But also, there's also a weakness that is a seasonal product. So especially in New York City, we have a really long winter. And due to the winter time, I think that's really hard for business like us to be surviving in this market. That's why we also always need to be innovative to add more new stuff into our menu, including hot items like the quaffle and hot drink for the summer. I feel like if just only ice cream is not attractive enough for the recent trend, because people love a variety of dessert. So I feel like adding ice cream plus the trendy drinks like boba tea drinks and also quaffle will be really helpful for my brands. We are thinking this age group that they're really into the boba tea space as well as ice cream. So that's why the concept with the collaboration between boba tea and ice cream came up into Smooth. And we have this drink product called Boba Flow, and that's one of our best-selling items here. So the idea of the quaffle, I did research from the internet and I saw it was really popular in Korea. And I found it will be really good to combine with ice cream and toppings.
Ice cream and boba floats are the main sellers in the summer, whereas the quaffle peaks in the winter. Christy isn't doing it all herself. She handles finance and operations, and her partners handle product. She looked at a variety of food and beverage concepts before settling on ice cream as her first venture. The startup costs are significant and help keep the barrier to industry low. An industry standard ice cream machine these days costs $50,000, a blast chiller costs $10,000, and freezers are several $1,000s each. These costs are only compounded in New York City, where space is a luxury. Yet once you get the equipment and process in place, ice cream is inherently scalable, as production can be isolated and the marginal cost of expansion is low.
We make ice cream in the busy season, we make it twice a week. And in the wintertime, we probably just do it once a week. So I think that type of thing, we can save our labor, that we don't have to have this manufacturing process every single day, just like other tea shop. And our drink can be pre-mixed, and we can also store for 1 day. So the marginal cost for ice cream shop will be much lower because the machinery you need to buy for the next store is only going to require a truss freezer and a display freezer. We only need one ice cream in this central kitchen location, and we can manufacture almost 100 tubs of ice cream per week. So we also can tap into the wholesale space much faster to scale up the business.
The bottleneck for independents is not production, but rather demand. They have the capacity to produce more ice cream today, and wholesale is the only way to unlock greater volume in the future. To hedge against winter and walk-in volatility, Smooth leans into catering and pop-ups at AnimeCon, Comic-Con, and DragonFest. From May to August, across the shop and events, Smooth grosses $65,000 a month. In the other 8 months, they gross just $30,000 for a total annual revenue of $500,000. Store-level operating margin sits on average at 13% and fluctuates between 10% in the winter and 15% in the summer. Just like Sam at street fairs, Smooth nets higher margins at conventions. Making their own ice cream has given Chrissy the confidence to price their products on par with Van Leeuwen. While Asian flavors and product mix are how Smooth found its footing, Christy believes that the business will ultimately come down to brand equity.
You have to find a really right position to position yourself in this competitive market. So I feel like just having one type of product is not good enough. We put a lot of effort in the social media and put us on different social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram is the biggest one, Facebook. And if time to time, we will invite influencers to our tasting event.
Yet her headache has been the market. Beyond the cost of rent in Manhattan, winters here are just too long and too harsh, and it's difficult to assess true product market fit when there's hardly any customers and the shop is barely breaking even 4 to 6 months out of the year every year. The only way to test Smooth's potential is to try a warm weather market like California, where people enjoy ice cream all year round. Rather than build on their existing infrastructure in the Northeast, Christie has chosen to reinvest on the opposite coast with a second location in Silicon Valley. Their latest shop grossed $60,000 in its first month, and there are talks of a third shop in LA. As we see from the big brands and the independents, every dollar counts, and you must maximize earnings in the summers to survive the winters. You have to be an opportunist, and you can't push pricing in a volume game when the bottleneck is demand, not production. There's not much room for principles in a business as seasonal and low margin as ice cream. Manufacturers, chains, and neighborhood scoop shops all come and go, and it takes a truly special type of character to last in this industry. It's 2 a.m. on a Thursday, and while everyone is fast asleep, the king of ice cream in New York City is starting his day. As soon as he gets in, he makes ice cream, orders ingredients, prints invoices, takes orders, schedules production, plots the delivery route, and loads the finished product onto the truck. All of this has to be accomplished before the 8 a.m. delivery every day. Even in his 60s, he does this every day and has done this every day, every week, Monday to Thursday, for the past 22 years. This is John, the owner of Il Laboratorio del Gelato, who has outlived every trend in this industry, from cold stone and rolled ice cream to soft serve and Japanese taiyaki.
I'm not a fan of the trendy. I think there's a reason things can be classic, and there's a reason why people gravitate toward vanilla and chocolate and strawberry. There's a reason why the classics stick around and have stuck around is because they're tried and true, whereas something that's trendy might be gone tomorrow or it might be gone next week or next month.
His family has been in this business for generations, and the unwavering value in which John operates are how he's maintained his success for so long in an industry that incentivizes volume over precision. Yet John is not a traditionalist who religiously serves only vanilla and chocolate. Il Laboratorio del Gelato, in name and practice, is a laboratory with over 250 flavors where every square foot is occupied by a freezer or ice cream machine.
This has just been a very personal journey of mine. I mean, from the outset and when I opened that many years ago. When I do something, I like to do it the right way. If I was going to start an ice cream company, it was going to be something quite unique because that's what drives me. That's what gets me up in the morning to be doing something that 22 years later, I still take a lot of pride in this place and what I built and what my staff has helped me build. And really, I think what drives all of my staff, everyone who works here, is really the quality. You're standing next to boxes of plums and peaches and pineapples, and we use a lot of fresh fruit here, and we don't skimp on that. That plum sorbet will be about 85% just fresh plums, and then a little water and a little sugar. It's easy to accentuate the profit. You can add a little more water, and most places do.
While everyone chases B2C, John has achieved his longevity through B2B. He's built his empire on a segment more valuable than the tourist or the yuppie, the New York City restaurant. John's primary customer base are professional chefs who cherish his standards and quality to buy in gallons, not pints. John is the exclusive supplier for nearly 400 restaurants across Manhattan, including celebrity favorites like Minetta Tavern and Porterhouse. These restaurants transform his ice cream into their own desserts, which are then sold to guests all year round, thus mitigating the issue of seasonality. With this customer base, there's no need for John to whip in air, cheap out on ingredients, and cut corners, which are all measures that most brands need to turn a buck. While most of the facility is dedicated to production, there is a small corner that serves as a retail storefront.
The clients are professional chefs. With the quality of what we do here, we have a wonderful experience to be working with some of the best chefs in New York. When you're open to the public, it's a whole different dynamic. You're selling a cup at a time. If I have a chef coming to me and they want me to create a new flavor for them, but they don't want many gallons, I will generally always make a full batch, and then we sell it in a retail shop. One of the great things about that is that we've kind of become known as a destination for unusual flavors. People show up here and we have 48 flavors in our retail shop, and they come to expect the unusual here. And anything we're selling to restaurants and chefs is making its way into our retail shops. So that's kind of a beautiful thing. It also allows us to push the product out the door if we have leftover, something that a chef maybe bought half a batch. Well, we know our retail customers are going to eat it up. So there's a nice symbiosis of wholesale and retail and production and retail.
To this day, John refuses to sell his ice cream to supermarkets or to license to outsiders. While both would open up significant revenue streams, he cannot compromise on the principles and the meticulousness in which he's built his business. He has zero interest in expansion or franchising.
I'm always very scared of how people take care of things. And when I go into a supermarket or a market and I'm always looking in their freezer section. At least 50% of the time, I notice that the temperature of the ice cream freezer is not cold enough. And ice cream is all about, the shelf life of ice cream is all about temperature and variation in temperature. If it's +5, maybe 2 or 3 days before it starts to crystallize and there's a problem with texture. I don't like my product being in someone else's hands, having that control over the quality that's going to have my name on it. And every one of those pint containers is digitally signed, but with my name on it.
While the typical retail customer spends just $12 per visit, the average wholesale customer spends $550 every month. John grosses on average $190,000 a month selling to restaurants for a total annual revenue of $2.3 million from the wholesale side. On the retail side, the storefront grosses on average $480,000 a year and peaks to as high as $70,000 in the summer and dips as low as $25,000 in the winter. He attempted to scale retail in the past by experimenting with a second shop a mile away in Greenwich Village, but found the juice not worth the squeeze. That shop before COVID grossed just $27,000 a month on average for a total revenue of $324,000 a year. Annual operating margins for his scoop shops clock in at 9%, while his wholesale business enjoys slightly higher margin at 10%. Without a hard dependence on retail to sustain his business, John offers the greatest pricing value relative to Smooth and Van Leeuwen. The artificial surge of Van Leeuwen, Salt and Straw, and Jeni's is nothing new to John. It's a familiar pattern to him where back in 2010, similarly positioned artisan emerging independents from Brooklyn like Ample Hills, Milkmaid, and Finn and Phoebe's all imploded under the weight of venture capital.
Look, I love when anyone comes onto the scene and is doing something unique and of quality. I have no issue with that at all. Whenever I see anything coming on kind of in a big way, where there might be some like funny money behind it or an infusion of cash from a VC firm to get them up and running, like Van Leeuwen sort of seems to me to have that kind of a situation where they were just opening stores. It's slowed down a bit now, I think. Maybe they're doing it in other cities in a big way, I'm not sure. But when they were just opening left and right, it just seemed like something's off here because it is a low margin business. You can't do that without a lot of risk. So it was probably an investor, as I popped in, there was probably an investor, behind that was like, do your thing, here's $10 million. And those things generally, I've been around a while, generally don't last.
It's only watching John work in the dead of the morning from 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. that we can truly understand the moat in which his business is built on. There's no Il Laboratorio del Gelato without John. Ingredients and inventory are abbreviated in whiteboards in a language that John created and only he can decipher. He's lived this business so deeply that he has a sixth sense on everything. What clients are going to order in last minute, which freezer here holds what tub of ice cream, the best route the driver should take through Manhattan that day to avoid traffic, and what everyone right now should be working on. Even his most tenured staff work at his instruction. He rarely goes on vacation, and when he does, he's still telling people what has to be done remotely. Everything is on a need-to-know basis, and John is self-admittedly a terrible delegator. But his passion is his moat and the reason for his longevity. There's nothing stopping anyone from trying to sell to the same restaurants that he currently supplies. But John doesn't charge for delivery, he has no large minimum order requirements, and he allows his restaurants to place orders up to midnight the day before. These are not sales tactics, they're just things that are only possible with how John works. And in a B2B business, these intangibles make all the difference.
I'd much rather sell a gallon to a professional chef than a small cup to a retail customer. That said, it's wonderful to see smile on people's faces, and that's really certainly part of the driver that got me into this business is my memories as a kid. And the wonderful part of this business is being able to put smiles on people's faces.
In business, you're only as good as yesterday, and ice cream is an oddly difficult industry where the margins through history remain low and passion is the primary currency.